Hello, Gophers. You're listening to Go Podcast. I'm Dominic St-Pierre.
And I'm Morten.
Next time, Morten, you will do the intro. We will reverse that.
Okay. And I do my full name as well.
Oh yeah, I will just do Dominic. So yeah, it will be funny. We are on the Gopher Slack, so there's not much going on there. So I don't know if we have reached a plateau with the podcasts. Maybe there's not much new listeners, or you guys are not on the Gopher Slack community for some reason. But if you are and you want to join us, we are there. And yeah, don't forget if you can take 1 or 2 seconds of your time and just try to rate the show. We are trying to reach as much people as we can.
Yeah, come and hang out, please.
Yeah, totally. So what's up? What's up with you? What have you done lately and whatnot?
Well, last week, at the time of recording, we had Passion with his OnCloud project that is very similar to my project, in the same category at least, as my project, and we had some really interesting talks. So what I've been doing is actually exploring WireGuard in a lot more depth. It's a really cool project, and it's kind of something I've ignored a little bit and just used the HTTPS as a communication protocol, but it would be very nice to have private networking in this whole server setup. So I've been exploring that a lot. Spent a couple of days trying to implement a version of it, and then realized I had to scrap it, at least for now. Because at least what Pasha was doing would allow you to create like a private network on your own servers, which is great. But what I would need to do for it to work in my use case was to have my project be part of all networks of all the users on the platform, which would either require me to have basically a per client interface, which would end up having a lot of interfaces, or sorry, a lot of micro networks, which is kind of what I wanted, and that could be very, very resource intensive, because like hopefully it would be resource intensive, right, if I reach a lot of customers with the project. So I kind of had to go away from that. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just wondering a little bit. So why are you saying that? So let me try to explain what I'm understanding from this, and maybe you can correct me. Probably I'm wrong in my assumption. So first of all, is it the way that WireGuard needs to be installed on the target server that does not really work with how you were deploying the agent or something like that at the moment in your setup? Is that the main problem there?
In terms of WireGuard not functioning for this, or why I'm considering WireGuard?
I'm wondering why you are backing off, because from what I understood, once it's in place, you basically just have a way to reach other machine. It's just something that gives you access to, oh, you know what, I have my server A in there and I have my server B in there. They could be totally indistinct cloud infrastructure, or maybe one is local and now those two servers can talk together. So why is it not? Why this very, very low level networking would impact your your project at all?
I mean, it likely wouldn't for a long time. The thing was, what I either had to do was to create a very large network, which is what Render and Cloudflare and all these guys seems to do, and then you basically would assign customers' servers to a little part of that network. I'm probably explaining it a little bit badly. But
Okay, you're talking about your cloud offering.
yeah.
Okay. I see what you mean. Okay, so basically trying to create small VPN, small virtual private network, but just for a customer in a sense. Oh,
Yeah, so I was just exploring different methods of that because I wanna offer telemetry servers as well, and database servers as well at one point, and it would just be very nice if I could have all of that in a private network. So basically, I was exploring that a little bit last week, not so much in depth, but I basically ran against the things that either I need to limit the amount of customers I could have, which is I could still have a lot of customers. I could still have like 60,000 servers or something to pay, depending on how I configured it. So it was still unique within the network, or I could have like a huge network and basically becoming DeployQuate's private network that everyone was a part of, and then isolate, not isolate really, but still say like who's allowed to access what in this gigantic network. But then again, also the attack surface becomes DeployQuate, which I mean, it still is in a sense. So, like if the API keys are leaked, if my database is leaked, right? You could argue it's the same thing, but you can rotate those. It was very interesting, but I also ended up backing off a little bit simply because this felt like a very huge setup for what I need for now. So I kind of backed it down a little bit, and then maybe would offer it on a per team level. So I am not really part of the network, but they have their own private network,
right?
Instead.
Maybe they have the like dedicated servers and whatnot. I would expect, because that is the problematic in your situation. If I'm yet again trying to understand, but since you want to have multiple customers on same servers, they cannot have the same virtual private network for sure. So it's pretty rough. It's pretty hard to isolate. Compared to what the DigitalOcean is doing, for example, when you are provisioning a droplet or any kind of cloud, VPS and whatnot, you usually have a virtual private network, but they are offering, quote unquote, isolated servers. So it's kind of easier potentially to create private network, but if I understand correctly, currently your cloud offering would have multiple servers and have customers on those, and there's not really a good isolation at the moment that will allows you to create those VPN.
No, I mean the core idea is also you can jump on different providers, right? So you can have something from Hetzner, from DigitalOcean, and being able to create a private network within those different providers would be very nice. So instead of, at least for now, DeployQuate being part of all networks, or I create one large network that I then have to be very careful of not messing up with, right? I'm backtracking a little bit, and then probably going to implement a feature where users can create a network, their network, and select like, okay, which servers are part of this network. And then they get like their own little network, and then simply keep, when I get to telemetry and databases, still keep that on like just communicating through HTTPS.
Right.
Which I think is fine for now. It's still encrypted. That's
because that's true. That is bring your own servers. You are not provisioning servers for them in a sense. Okay. So, but is telemetry and the like not part of the agent? Is it not the agent that is responsible for that?
You will pull telemetry data out of the agent, or the thing that's running on the server.
Yeah.
But I still want to be able to store it. So actually provide open telemetry data. I'm exploring a click-based database setup right now, which will be its own server to store all of that, and then of course create the visualization through click-based. And just putting all of that in a private network, I feel would be a lot nicer instead of exposing the database to, not exposing it, but technically exposing it to the public internet, right? So you can't just get, like, if you run it in systemd, you can I just pull the logs, right? So you can see the logs. That's fine for like an intermediary solution, but if you want to start searching your logs, if you want to start, I also believe like you can correlate your logs with certain trace IDs and all of that. I need a larger setup, which is going to be done through a telemetry server that I'm still debating how to offer this, if it's going to be like, let's say, a 24-hour retention window or something like that. So I just have a bunch of telemetry servers that pulls data from all of the customer servers and stores it, and then you can query it through the interface. And then you also need like how do we share like the credentials to each server, right, with the telemetry server. So I was just exploring different paths there, because if I can just say this is a private network, then all of that becomes easier in a sense. There's not really a discovery or token part, because it's in private networks, but it ended up being too, I wouldn't say cumbersome, but it ended up being a little bit, I think this is taking on too much responsibility for what the project is trying to do, in a sense. Yeah. Because all of a sudden I become very close to what the big, what's it called, serverless, they do, but I can't charge what they charge, because this is still like, you bring your server, I provide the interface for you to manage and deploy and track and all of that things, right? So also have to be a balance of things.
Yeah. Project management, putting the lines where what feature do you need, what will you provide? This is always hard. It's nice though, because after our recordings with Pasha, we went on a very nice conversation, and I was thinking in my head while we were talking, because it moved a little bit to the business side of things and whatnot. But I was saying that to myself. It's very nice when you can talk with someone in your space. I was you both were. He was pretty curious about what you were doing and whatnot, and that led you to try some things and whatnot, because you've heard what he was doing with his project. So it's always important to I think to try and find other people that are in that market, in that industry, that are doing maybe what you are trying to do and whatnot. And it's nice to just talk with I won't say competitors, but because that market is so vast, and you are not doing the same thing at all, but at least you could relate on a lot of things. So I think it's pretty important to find that early in a project. Compared to developers tend to, isolate themselves in the basement and say, you know what, I will build that in the next 6 months, and we will see what people will think. You are not doing that, because you are very public with your building phase and whatnot. But early feedback is invaluable.
Yeah, that's also like you see a lot of people talk about the thing, like speak of it from day one, right, and see if there's any interest. It's really always a good sign to like the validity of your project. Of course, if you're an expert in an area, like Pasha is obviously very skilled at cloud infrastructure, right? So he probably has a really good idea of the problem that needs to be solved, right? And then the next problem comes: how do we find customers? Right, so it was interesting to hear those kind of different problems. Or
totally, because GitHub stars and Twitter likes are nothing when at the end of the day, if no one is going to open their wallet, I'm sorry, but yeah, that is something that you learn very quickly in the SaaS bootstrap world that I'm from since 2008. It's not talking about things in social networks. It helps you a little bit, but it's almost as very very similar to feeling progress because you are writing lines of code and you are building your project. So that is kind of a false positive way of having progress in a sense. So it's pretty. I'm just saying things that people in the small startup worlds are saying for years, and I've been in that market long enough that it's nice to talk about the project day one. I'm not against that at all, but don't mix up with clear indication that you have a market and that you will have paying customers. Paying customers is a totally different beast and it's very hard. And as soon as you put yourself in the shoes of, I will try to sell my things instead of just trying to talk about what I'm doing, which people might find very interesting and intriguing and whatnot. And now there's kind of engagement. Engagement on social network and paying customers are very, very, very different.
Yeah.
So that's a red flag there sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's yeah. Yeah. It's just like how do you do it? And we also afterwards we had the really really interesting discussion of how do we reach users and what do you do, what do I do, of talk, right?
Because the difficulty is always, for us engineers, it's fun to stay in the code. It's fun to talk on the internet about what we are doing, like the podcast that we are doing now and things like that. I mean, those things we are very, very comfortable in there. But what about if tomorrow, I would say, you need to reach 10 potential customers and try to get real feedback from there, and this is the kind of situation that when you are building SaaS, you as a software engineer, as a programmer, you might not put yourself quickly enough in that situation. And at some point you are building, you are talking, you are public, you are talking about your things. Those are good, those are, excellent, but 90%, I was saying 80% in the past. I would go as far to say as now 90% of the efforts now is the difficulties will comes when the programmer put themselves into the shoes of, okay, now I really need to try to first, where are my user? Who are my users? Sometimes people don't really know who their potential customers will even be. So it's pretty hard to reach out. And gone are the days where you go to Reddit and you go to social networks and now you plug your things, because there is so much noise these days. So I've noticed that in the last 4 years since LLMs and whatnot, there is so many quote unquote half-baked products all out there. So it's getting it was already hard in 2010 to get any kind of traction or any kind of eyeballs on a project, especially paying customers. So so I don't know. So the sooner that you put yourself in the shoes of, I will try to find real user. We'll try to find some kind of early feedback from people that would be game to pay. This is invaluable and this is very hard. Those are not the Twitter reply. Those are not the GitHub. And no, you know what? We need to say these things because people, especially these days, people that were never able to ship before LLMs now are able to ship products, and they think that now there is a huge lines. Building a product was never the problem. So it's even easier today than it was before, but it was never the problem. And yeah, no. I really like to always remind every programmers that, put yourself very, very quickly in the shoes of trying to find something, trying to find paying customers, or there's always the path, the best path possible for a programmers that don't want to do that. Just find a partner. So just find someone that will be able to do these things. And now you can. When I built LeadFuse, well, in fact, I joined LeadFuse with a marketer and a salesperson. It was one of the SaaS that I could focus entirely just on engineering, and that was really, really, really nice. And that is still one good way to for programmers that don't want to do the marketing. If you want to try it, to do the marketing, trying to customer reach out, customer development and whatnot, there's a huge side of things that programmer don't even how can I say that, admit, because they and I'm guilty of that, but because you do have some progress, and especially now these days it's pretty easy to have this shot of adrenaline and have this, oh yeah, I've done some progress this week. But if your goal is to survive or be sustained by your project, you will need to leave the easy stuff at some point and just try to find people, because that is hard.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of like comfort zones that needs to be crushed when you start to embark on this kind of adventure. because developer, I hate cold outreach emails. Like I can't stand them, and I'm always like they cannot work, but they work. Yeah. If you like it or not, right? They work, and especially after I put the project up on some different sites, of course, some people are seeing it, and I'm not getting customer like, hey, can I buy this now? I'm getting the, hey, do you need your sock too? And I'm like,
yeah.
what? But I tried at one point with another project where I was like really frustrated with recruiters on LinkedIn, and I was like, I can do this better. I can scrape leads or something better than you. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to people, and then I sent out like 30 LinkedIn requests to talk to recruiters, right? And then people were like, yeah, we can have a chat. I don't mind, because it's normal in their world to be reached out to in that way, I think.
Yeah.
So like switching your mindset a little bit in that path, I think is very necessary. Like you don't necessarily need to spam people and send a bunch of like really low quality emails. But if you send an email that has, if you do your research, especially at the beginning, you find some people where like, okay, there's a high likelihood that they would actually be in need of what I am building, and you send them a personalized, hey, I saw your stuff, and I saw you doing this. I am building this, and this will do that for you. Are you open to a chat? People would probably generally respond positively. They might not buy your stuff, right? But they might be like, hey, cool, but no. Or be like, hey, yeah, sure, let's talk about it, right? So that is also, I think, a big mind shift that needs to happen, because you also like, you cannot rely on social the same way you used to. You cannot rely on ads the same way you used to. Like one of my first jobs, we burned. It was a startup, and I think they burned like $10,000 a month on Google ads and saw no return. And that was like 10 years ago. And that was fine, because it was just VC money that was being followed into this machine, right? And they were like, okay, because they were also selling GDPR services, and nobody at that point took it serious. So that was probably also a huge factor, right? But for a lot of startups, that model worked, like just grab a shovel and, into the furnace of Google Ads, and you will probably see some traction. So that doesn't really work. And another thing I think that's also really important is that you need to start to be very precise in your communication. And I think that's sometimes hard not to qualify the statements that you're making when you're used to doing engineering, because when you do engineering, there's a lot of ifs and buts and be awares in all the stuff that we do, right? And then you have to go over and be very much, my project does this. And then stop, no more buts, no more ifs, it does this, and it does it really, really good. You will love this project. I think can also be hard, because that's not, at least from a developer background, not really what at least I was used to. You always have these discussions, and I saw like a podcast with the Primagen, and they had this AI expert or machine learning researcher in, and you can just see like the entire conversation. He was always qualifying what he was saying with all of these, but I don't know, or this could, like, very technical and very research oriented, right? And that's great for technical discussions. But I think when it comes to communicating your product offering, you just need to be a little bit arrogant, probably. Be very like confident, and this is what it does, and it's amazing. and then stop there, and that can be really hard sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are completely different skills, for sure.
Yeah. And that's also why all the vibe coders are probably seeing traction, right? Right? They're like, oh, I vibe coded this in a weekend and I got users. And of course, 9 out of 10 of them are probably lying or making up numbers. But the fact that they are just being like, hey, I made some cool shit, some cool stuff here, go check it out. Yeah, that's probably a really good step to start getting users on, right?
Well, yeah, they are riding the wave, the LLM's wave for now. Yeah, have you heard of Nano Claw?
Yeah,
you certainly heard of OpenClaw. So yeah, it was this came to me. This is crazy. The amount of news that is coming my way. I don't even search for anything of those things, and I don't know how. And this to me feels completely, and it relates to what we are talking now, because I'm seeing on a community where I am, for a long time. It's a Slack community for entrepreneurs, solopreneur maybe, and small bootstrap startup founder and whatnot. I'm seeing more and more people using these tools to do marketing, and I'm like, and of course they are engineers, right? Because usually, anyways, you give access to so many tools to these quote unquote automated agents and whatnot that it scares me a lot. And what you were just saying about reaching out to LinkedIn and things like that might be already things to the past, because now, as soon as it was always like that with marketing people, as soon as they discover something, now everyone is doing it, and now it stopped working. So that is all quick and easy marketing tactics works. And now I'm feeling like with these OpenClaw and NanoClaw and whatnot, and our solopreneurs usually tends to be overwhelmed with all these tasks. Now it's kind of easy for a programmer and engineer to say, oh, you know what? I will just outsource all the marketing and the reaching out. And that is scary to me.
But I also think that's like, okay, everyone does this, but then simply doing the simplest thing becomes a competitive advantage. Because if everyone is just writing these generic messages where I can see just had someone, like I had a lot of LinkedIn like, oh, Morten, I'm really impressed with your work at MBV Labs. And it's like, okay, but that's my freelance, like that's not, that's just my company name. I do freelancing. You have to look into, because I write like descriptions of the work I have done for my clients, so they could be like, oh, I really love your work at X client. I'm like, okay, you actually sat down and wrote my stuff, and then they followed up with, "Oh, I'm so impressed with your background. You will fit great into this role for Java or something like that." I'm like, "Dude, I have never done Java. What are you talking about?" So it's just at one time I wrote something on LinkedIn where I was like, it's crazy to me that in 2025 the only thing you have to do to be a successful recruiter is to read the LinkedIn profile and write a personal message. That's the only thing you have to do. And then probably a lot of developers will be like, "Okay, I will talk to you." Like you actually took the time to sit down and read what I have done, and then you simply, here's my job spec, here's what the person have done. There is those two things use the same words. Great. Let me contact them. And I think the same thing applies here, right? Instead of this generic nanoclaw, OpenClaw, spam messages, just be like, "Hey, I saw you are working at this place. I can see in your post that you have done these things. I am building this. This will do that for you. I am available to talk whenever you want. Should we do that, right?" And so I get your point with like people are probably feeling spammed, but I also think it creates an opportunity just to be a human being in your messages, and then people will probably be like, "Okay, finally someone that is not a bot."
Yeah, totally. But I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because I think people would get tired very quickly of all of, I'm seeing that. My wife is not at all in the technical space, and sometimes she mentioned me things like, let's say there's a company that is doing an ads that clearly used AI, because visually it seems to be evident that it is, and the comments under there, which are the normies, the muggle, the normal non-engineers are mad. They are mad about LLMs and AIs. I'm not saying it's the overall general public, but I don't have percentages. I would be very, very interested to know how many people are just already a little bit fatigued. And that is where I have fear about those things, is that it just adds up. It adds up. People are using that now to create so many things that it contributes to a general overall information overflow, if you will. And now I understand what you're saying, that is, it's nice for people that will stay human and whatnot, but I don't know, will it get lost in all this craziness and all this noise? That's my fear.
I think it's a cycle. I'm getting more and more convinced that this is just a cycle that people has to go through when it comes to these tools, because a lot of the people still only really discovered, at least let's call them the business people, discovered this in like December, where I started to really go all in on this back in actually close to a year ago now. And like the more you use them, the more you start to see the same patterns emerge, and you're like, I'm not really sure this is so great as it appeared to be in the beginning. And I think it's probably a question of time before these people start to see they don't have a return on investment here in terms of time, in terms of product, and the person that just sits down and do the work is out competing them, simply because like they might be quote unquote more productive, but I don't think you are. You have to use the tools for very specific things, because if you just create these bland generic things, you feel productive, but I don't think you see the same amount of return. So the people who will just press the big magic button, that is nice. I still do it from time to time. I try to not do it, but I think you just need to spend enough time with these things, and then you realize, okay, everything is not automatable in the way that it was presented. And I think we also start to see some big voices in the tech space saying similar thing, and that's probably where I have some of my opinions from, right? But they also like slow down, take it easy. things are not kind of what they appear. And I've started to see this podcast with the guy is called Ed Citron or something like that. Doesn't really, I can share it in the Slack, but where he talks a lot about how the LLMs are really good at disguising themselves as the correct solution. And I think that's what I'm seeing a lot. That this looks right? And then I start to dig through the things and it's like, no, this is not right. Or this is right. It was like the whole thing, like this thing works. It's like, it works, but that's not really the only measure we have of quality that it works. Like there's also maintainability. There's also like these, how can you read it? Can you follow it? And then it was like, oh, the agent will just do that for me. It's like, but the agent has a context window that gets filled up. And if you create a gazillion indirections in your code, it has to follow those indirections before you can even start on the work. So code practices still matter. Yeah, I'm going a little bit of a rant here. I'm getting very anti-AI pilled lately. But I think that's what will happen as well. That, you can generate a PowerPoint slide with Cloud Cowork now, but it's going to look like all the other ones. So why wouldn't the contrarian option here be to just create it yourself? And maybe it looks a little bit uglier, or not uglier, but less polished, but it's human. And I don't know. I think that's become more interesting.
And the satisfaction that you are getting. So I've restarted to do exorcism in Gleam. So it was so much fun. I want to do 1 or 2 per day now.
Yeah.
No, just me and the problem, just me and the code editor. It was so fun. It was that fun that I've decided to. I'm rewriting what I was doing in Gleam, full Gleam. Front end and back end now.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
I'm going all in Gleam finally. I wanted to do that at first. I choked a little bit, and I regretted almost 1 or 2 weeks after I started the project. It's nothing against Go at all. It's not that. I just need some fun and excitement in my life.
Next week is gonna be a Gleam podcast.
No, not at all. But it's true that And the strange things is that I've been trying to. I won't even go there. But let suffice to say that I don't know. I needed some. Yeah, I just needed some new excitement in my life, and just started last week. Very, very excited. It's just nice to just take things a little bit more slower, more calm. Just think about problems a little bit instead of just going very fast.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like and the amount of the amount of satisfaction that I'm getting is like 1000x. It's crazy how much I was just solving a very, very simple problem the other day. It was how to detect an Armstrong number and whatnot. I was not knowing what an Armstrong number is, but suffice to say, it's the sum of all the digit of a numbers to the power of the number of digits in the number itself. So anyways, a small algorithms, very, very easy to do, but it was beautiful. It was nice. I loved it. I love programming. I love to write code. I love to solve problems like that. I was building this thing with using the LLM for the front end because I went with a React application. I haven't built a React application since 2016. So it was 9 years when I haven't built something, and I did not wanted to put my hand nowhere near anything in there.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks after the start, now I am at 67,000 lines of React. The bundle is gigantesque. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not going to be maintainable at all. And I'm not even talking about the code quality. I'm just talking about, wow, this thing is just piling and piling and piling over and over again.
Yeah.
And of course, I haven't been monitoring precisely what it was doing, because I did not want it, because I hate React. I hated 10 years ago. I did not want to do that, but I had some good reason to have to use it instead of going with an hypermedia option and whatnot, which is what I was using like since the last 4 years and whatnot. Long story short is that, yeah, I'm just restarting now because it's just dirty, and I won't be able to maintain that.
And it's also, I think it's nice that you are able to remember code. I feel like a lot of time when I've used the LLMs, it's like that Gandalf memes from Lord of the Rings, where it's like, I have no recollection of this place. And I feel like that's so much when I have done like throwaway MVC, like MPV or whatever, or implemented a feature with these tools where like, I have no idea about this place, and then you have to start to re-familiarize you with everything. And then, of course, as you say, the satisfaction of writing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the slowing down, thinking a little bit more. And the other day I was also very frustrated because the not learning part, I was feel like I'm not learning anything because I'm not sitting down and like, for example, like let's say with like WireGuard, at the beginning it was just like, hey, explore this and do this and give me a summary. Okay, this seems feasible. Let's try and do it. And then I did that for a little while, and then I was like, okay, I need to sit down and read about this project to correctly understand it. So, and then you was like, do I have time for this? Like you have this feeling of constant like money is running out. You need to progress with the project, right? So you're like, let me take the shortcut, and then you end up losing more time taking the shortcut than you would have done actually, just doing the work. Put your fingers on the keyboard, read the thing, explore it, and that is something I also miss, because now it's like you can probably also hear with the WireGuard. If I had spent 2 days reading and finding resources, I would have been much clearer in my representation of why it didn't work. I know it doesn't work because I have done this for a long time, but I cannot clearly articulate it with a deep knowledge of what I have just done. And that is because you get into this like trap, I think, of not really knowing, but you kind of rely on your skill set and experience, and then that makes it sort of work out, but you also don't really progress. Maybe I'm just rambling here, but I feel like that's
no. Yeah, I feel exactly the same, and this is scary when you think about that, because at some point, and I lived the same experience as you. Is that it's a skills that those skills are there for me. I've been programming for the last 25 years, and I was amazed at the speed that I was losing things here and there, small things. It's not like I'm not able to program anymore. That's not what I'm saying, but things that I was doing like by heart and whatnot, and that you need to keep that, because otherwise, I mean, they that's crazy. And maybe that's the goal. Maybe that's the goal, because as soon as people start to lose their skills, now don't have a choice but to use the tool. That it's either that or you restart. And I'm scared a little bit of the thing now.
And now it's also important.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it's important now to note that you can only use the tool when it's available. And if you take a look at the status pages, it is not looking good. It's looking very bad for both.
What do you mean?
Like Claude, Anthropic, they didn't crack 99% uptime for the first quarter or something like that. it is like they are in like 98% uptime. Also,
Okay.
and also OpenAI, like it's down a lot. It is down often.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not using the thing very very often compared to a lot of people. That I have never had any kind of downtime. But I'm not using that very a little bit, a couple of times, maybe 5 times a day, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, but this is there's a lot of yellow and red in their status pages, and it's starting to show a little. And I'm not saying it's necessarily because they use LLMs to develop it. It might also just be hardware constraints. And if you listen to that part of the business, it also seems you become very skeptical about the future of these things, because they need to scale out their operations to be able to support the increased load. Like GitHub, for example, was it like 300 trillion lines of, I can't remember. It was like 30 billions. I can't remember. It was absurd numbers of lines added in this quarter compared to other quarter, and it's purely AI driven.
Yuck.
Yeah, and it feels like the foundation is crumbling a little bit. And again, looking at their official status pages, that I'm not saying they are fiddling with the numbers or doing anything, but like even the official ones are looking bad. It's like we used to take what it was like 5 nines of uptime as a standard, industry standard. That's what I can't remember what AWS SLA says. Is that probably 5 times? And now it's like 98.6. That's like the new normal. Okay, you are worth trillions of dollars, and this is your uptime. So you use your skill, and you have to use this magic button that is not available full time. So what do you do? I don't know. Yeah.
No. I think we should be extremely careful with this.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's the future we envision. Like, everyone wants to have their own Jarvis. And that's probably also what they're trying to. I also want to have my own Jarvis, like from Iron Man with OpenClaw. But I don't think what we have now is it. Especially when you see the images of people like trying to stop it from deleting like their email inboxes. Yeah, it's because you give it. Like, also the joke, I saw a joke with, we had this actually 10 years of GDPR here in the EU, right? Where it was like, no, you can't have cookies, but here is all my API tokens. Go, you do you. And then, cross your fingers and hope for the best. I think we're going to come. It's not going to go away. The genie is out of the bottle. I just.
Yeah.
Things are going to adapt. And I think it was Dax from the Open Code or Anomaly team, I think it's called, who talked about this thing. Like, when we had crypto, it was kind of like everything or nothing, and we ended up somewhere in the middle. And I think with AI, we had the same discussion. It's like either everything or nothing, and it's probably going to end somewhere in the middle, where it's just it's another little thing that we use. But if you just overdo it like everything else, it's not gonna it's not gonna be good, I think.
Yeah, no, totally. That's scary. They will lose money at some point as well. There will be not enough money at some point, because they are still losing a lot of money. So that's another concern.
And I saw people on, I think it was LinkedIn, where they were like, you have to build new businesses assuming that the models will get 100x better. And I'm like, my guy, you have not been following the cycle if you think that's the case, because if you look at the last 2 years, they have not gotten 100% better. They used to get 100x better, or whatever we call it, a factor or whatever. They used to go from 2, 3, and then they hit a ceiling where, okay, for some reason, like, why do we have 4.5 and 4.6 instead of 5 and 6? I mean, there's a reason why they don't do that, and I don't know the internals, but I assume it's because if they said this is 5 and this is 6 and it was basically the same as before, then people will be like, what? I'm not going to use this thing, right? So 100x better now. Like that used to be true, but even what was like Kapafi that's talking about, like I can't remember who was like, but the scaling laws are starting to like they don't see the same gains in just chucking more data as they used to, and so they are not gonna get 100x better. It seems, at least not with the current architecture and the current understanding. Maybe with what Jan LeCun is gonna be doing with his $1 billion funding, a new architecture, maybe we'll see that. But I don't think the current model is gonna. Assuming it's 100x better in a few years, that's a big doubt button on that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's well, yeah, exactly. So how much time you would say you are writing code these days without LLMs? So let's say there's an 8 hours a day. Let's take that as an example.
So I try to do as much as possible, and I will say now I'm probably doing 4 hours only human coding.
Yeah,
and then I get tired, or I lose my stamina, and then I switch over to AI coding, but where I look at all the changes.
Yeah.
And that is simply I can go for a longer period of time compared to me saying I'm X amount more productive. This is simply like, I'm tired. I don't want to write more code now. I have written enough if error equals null statements for this day. Let the agent do it. But I still look at whatever is outputted and then simply accept that, okay, I can't do 8 hours focus coding anymore. I can do 4 good ones, and then I can use the tools to write the code, but look at everything. So it's probably the same amount of output that only gets extended. But I'm also trying to have I have the small Anthropic plan, because I don't want to get too much into the temptation of just spinning the wheel all the time. So that's probably only gives me like a couple of hours of extra coding time, because then the window is gone. I don't have more usage. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how people are using the $100 or $200 plan. I mean, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I mean, you can just pick 5 features and use Git work trees, and then just YOLO this thing. And
they put that in parallel, like they open like 5 session and start works in 5 concurrent session.
Yeah, I used to do that.
That is crazy.
Like just in the beginning when Anthropic came out with the subscription plan, where there was no limits at all, I was just like, let's see how far we can take this thing. And I would just try and spin up as much as possible. And the limitation was my brain, because I was running like 4 or 5, and I was like, I have no idea, but it felt crazy. It felt like taking drugs, because it was like I can do so much. And then you do that for a couple of days, and you just look at yourself in the mirror. At the end of the day, I was like, my brain is mush. I have no like my wife would. What did you do today? And I was like, I don't know. I pressed a button, and what something generated, and then I was like, okay, good. This seems to work. So I think like you can do that, right? And you can also just have it run in a loop. Just use a bash for loop or whatever it's called, and give it a task and say like, you go fix this. So there are definitely options to use those plans, right? But I think if you use them, let's say quote unquote normally, it's probably hard to hit the ceiling on those plans.
Yeah, what I'm using them mostly these days is when I would usually go to do a Google search and search for something that either I forgot how to do or I don't know how to do it, because let's say I'm writing more Gleam lately, and of course I don't know all the packages and all the functions and whatnot. So I just want to know, how can I do a map, for example, or just do so it's mostly that for me these days. That is also why I'm choosing Gleam at the moment, is that this language is so nice at refactoring. Functional programming and refactoring is just especially for a strongly type language like Gleam. It's pretty great. I mean,
Nice.
I've heard something about Gleam the other day, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. There was one of the core maintainer that was on the podcast that says something like, Gleam is what Go would have been if Rob Roberts and Ken would have written Haskell instead of C. And I was like, oh, geez, this is so good. This is so yeah, it's pretty nice.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I'm not using that. I won't use that like I did. That the React thing that I did was just a trial, if you will. I did not wanted to write that, so I say, you know what? I'll outsource all of that to an LLM.
Yeah.
Wow. I would never pay something if I know that the project or the product was built entirely with an LLM, without a huge supervision of humans. I mean, this is terrible. This is dangerous.
Yeah, it is. And also, like after you talked about your experience with just having the LLM do all the front end, I was very tempted to do the same. But also, because I was like, okay, the front end doesn't really matter. I like that it does matter, but I would rather write the Go code than I want to write the front end code.
Yeah.
So I also did some experiments, but I think the years of writing React was like, even with the LM can do it, I don't want to look at it anymore. And also, I'm so pilled with the data, with Delaney's Data Star project that I'm like, this is I want to write HTML, and I want to use like Data Star for the interactivity, and I can keep stuff server side and have fun while I do it.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. For me, it's also more of a I cannot really do UIs anymore. Yeah. So yeah, but that's different. So that's a problem. That's a problem that I'm happy to outsource to. But yeah, this is an interesting world that we are in. To be frank, I was pretty excited the other day, and I need to continue to do some exorcism, and like you were saying, I need to continue to learn things. That is crazy.
Yeah, But also like I don't know. You can get really philosophical about this thing, but it's also like if it's not really. There was one guy who was quoting another guy on Twitter about like I can do in one day what I used to do in a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but you're also building a social media scheduling tool, Like I'm not trying to take anything away from that. Yeah. That can be a good tool, but integrations, they are definitely trained on that because that's typically public, And if you integrate with the big social media providers, they will know. I know because I've used LLMs to write like integrations to popular providers, and they one-shot it most of the time because it's in the training data. But as soon as you go outside of that space, you can't. Like it's not a good experience, and you can't expect them to be trained on all types of code. Like I mean, maybe you can, but then what are we doing here? Then coding is actually dead if all code is in the training data, which will not happen because like we need we'll continue to invent things, and we have new problems we have better problems, and we need to create solutions for that, right? So yeah, you need to continue learning, and you need to explore, and you need to. I think the acceptance that, especially if you go into the solo entrepreneur route, that like your taste and opinions is what will likely make you a competitor in the space, and if you don't have those, and it's like Claude or whatever, then it's very easy to copy those kind of like things. I saw a discussion where one guy was like, I think he was removing like his release page or something like that, where he was like up like whatever changelog version like side of his page because people were copying it, and then
Yeah.
we had what's it called, David Kramer, I think, from Sentry, being like, if this is true, then like this is not true, because like focus on your customers. If your customers are are that easy to win over, then you're not differentiating much in the end, anyways, right? And so there was a couple of guys jumping in, saying like, this is not true. Like this is a product problem. If this is really a problem, or you're focusing on the wrong thing, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was said in the past that don't put too much attention into your competitors. But now, if your competitors are just able to monitor your changelog, before you might have a couple of months before they implemented something, and now someone could copy you very quickly. I understand that the copycat is not going to get the marketing, or at least all the personal touch that the original company is doing. But it's still sad to be in that place where you need to think about those things. I don't know.
Yeah, but you also like this. I think this has always been a thing, because
Yeah.
why would you?
Yeah,
like,
but you had times, now someone can copy your some. Let's say that you take about something very, very exclusive in your industry, and now you push that, and there's two competitors that implement that in the same 3 days after that. So it was like that before, but before it might have took, I don't know, 3-4 months maybe. So that's the difference.
Maybe, but they're also getting likely a worse version of that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like the problem is, like, if
the support as well.
The support as well, but if two people are sitting and using LLM generated code to copy each other, one is using it to create the feature, and one is copying the feature, then comparing that to a human sitting and writing the feature, and then that gets copied, I think the human version will always be better, because it's less generic in a way. So it's true, I think you can do it faster, but you still need domain knowledge to really copy something in a good way.
Unless it's in the training data.
Unless it's in the training data, right? Then it's hard. Then you have to compete on other verticals, right? Then it's a marketing game.
Support for me is going to be, and it was always like that for small company. That was always the leverage, moving fast, having great support, talking one-on-one with your customers. Those were always the differences or the advantages of small software provider. Those are still true today.
There was a Danish startup who is doing like a AI customer service thing. And there's a lot of Denmark just had elections, and there was a lot about a wealth tax that they were talking about introducing. And this guy, he was like, well, I am valued this much, and I make this much, and I will have to pay that much. So he was making a big deal out of this. Anyways, he got a lot of media coverage, right? And then some guy went in and actually got another customer's details out of the chatbot, right? Where if I saw that as a customer of the service, I would be like, no. And also so I just, to your point with like human support is probably, I don't know, like people try to cut corners, but then again, if I can see that I'm talking to a human being in the chat, or at least it feels like it, so you need to get to that point, then I'm always like, okay, nice, like I trust you. And as soon as it's a chatbot, AI chatbot, I just spam human, right, until I get to talk to a human person. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it will pay off to put some efforts. Yeah, do the onboarding, one-on-one, and super crazy hand holding at first and whatnot. Those are the things that will make a difference for small SaaS.
Yeah, definitely. Like also, that's your competitive advantage against the big ones who don't have the time to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool, Morten. So I think that's the episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So
see you.
See you.